please join me in welcoming to the dais someone that all of us know, Devarsh Saraf, founder BFC. Let's welcome him with a warm round of applause. Welcome, Devarsh. And I'm going to hand the mic over to you.
Thank you, guys. So, guys, if you all have been part of BFC, you all know that I hate this question, but I get it from every new person that comes in. Oh, why don't we have a separate group for D2C founders? Or why don't we have a separate group for like B2B founders? Or why don't we have a separate group for tech founders? And the answer is this, right? As founders, we're basically solving problems. You happen to be solving a problem in the D2C space today, or in the fintech space today, which is why you're a fintech founder today. That doesn't mean that you can't do something else tomorrow. And today's keynote speaker, I think, embodies that better than anybody else. I was speaking to him earlier today, and we realized that his life is actually divided into 6 chapters, where he's done 6 completely different things, from LPG, from a business in LPG, to construction, to angel investing, to running a VC fund, to heading advertising, below the line advertising at JWT in India. So he's just had so many different chapters, and I could not be more privileged to welcome Mr. Gopal Modi to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Devarsh.
So what exactly are you working on now at the fund that you've just kind of set up?
So it's interesting that you ask me on this forum because we've never really spoken about it. It's the first time that design is meeting capital, right? So we're working on setting up a fund, a venture fund for what we call the built environment, which entails everything that touches the built environment, including the architectural space and the brands being created. And the fund itself is going to be backed by some leading architects in India because they are, specifiers. And there was a deep insight behind doing this because if you see, architects really influence and control a lot of the brand building that happens in the space, but they're not part of the wealth creation. So if somehow through the platform we can help them in the wealth creation journey as well, I think we are solving for 2 things. And then, of course, we are getting industry stakeholders and developers to back it.
It's very interesting because I think one of the problems that a lot of founders and people in the startup ecosystem have with newer age, smaller funds is that there are funds in namesake only, right? You'll have a bunch of 200, 300 CR funds, and all they're going to do is invest in a company after peak XV is invested, or invest in a company after Lightspeed is invested. Or, are you really doing your job as a fund manager? Because all you're doing is just putting like dumb money in a startup. What's your take on that?
Okay, I won't comment on other funds. I just need, we're just proud to know that our thesis is actually exactly the opposite. The idea of involving industry stakeholders and specifiers was to get the intel on the brands that we actually look at, right? So if you're looking at, let's say, a home automation brand or any of the brands that are here today, right? Amongst the fraternity and the industry, they know whether there's a product market fit, they know if they're going to use it, they know the entrepreneur, they know the integrity, they know what's happening, they know the future of it, and they also know the white spaces to be able to guide these brands into actually expanding, right? So I think that is the leverage, the intel of the fraternity is what we're trying to leverage for the brands that we invest in. And we truly believe that over the next 2 decades, you are going to see a lot of new brands getting created in the category, thanks to our movement towards sustainability, just pure design and innovation. And a lot of the incumbent guys are going to get disrupted. And that's why we'll come in with this whole industry backing. So it's technically, if you want to just simplify it, it's a fund by the industry for the industry.
One of the biggest pain points that almost consistently came across in some form or the other was with respect to hiring, right? Not just hiring, but also people strategy, building a culture. Everybody's heard, right, that, we need a good culture in our team. Very few people can actually explain what it means. I'd love to hear from you, how did you go about hiring at Flora 2000, and what was the culture when you were working at Flora 2000?
So we were a small team, right? This difference actually I figured when I jumped to being part of the WPP group, which is JWT Advertising. That was a mammoth. And from being a 20-member team to go into a company that has 2,000 people, that's where I saw what the difference is. But I think we did well for our people, right? Like, it's a very vast subject, hiring and HR and how to keep people happy. But I'll share a few nuggets that hopefully the founders can take. The first thing is that you're hiring at different levels. So let's leave out the hiring at the lower levels. If you can invest a lot of time in the person who's actually going to work with you, it helps. So don't do 1 interviews and 2 interviews. Take him out for dinner, him or her. Invest in knowing the person, right? And I think that really helps. So invest some time. I know it's, the bandwidth is very less. You leave it to your HR manager. But your top team, you should invest in knowing them before you hire them, right? So that's one thing. In terms of culture, I think we just valued the time a lot in terms of making them, because we knew it was a very tough job and they used to work 24 hours and sorry, we had peaks like Christmas and Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day, where the surge of volume used to go like 100x of what we do every day. So those were tough times, but the one thing that we put in place is, of course, an amazing reward system for them to value. The other thing that we did as a small team is just have fun, right? I think, and that's, I think, especially relevant today with the Gen Z, because it's all about having fun at the workplace. They don't want to get stressed out. So I think the more you share your success and the more you reward them and the more you interact and engage and have fun, it's a very vast topic. So how you structure that, whether you structure that through a offsite or you structure that through just having weekly meetings and pepping them up or whatever. But I think I'll give you 3 couple of scenarios where, something that I learned having worked with people that I hired and then they worked with me for like 15 years, 20 years in all my stints, right? And it was very interesting because the one trait that I found is that if that person was really like willing to learn, right? And just eager to learn and execute. It's just learn and do, learn and do. That was a very interesting trait. And I got 3 people in my life who actually did that very well. And from working with me at Flora to actually heading the FedEx account for years in JWT was the same person, right? It's just, they wanted to learn when they came here. Then they moved on to the next stint with me. It was very interesting. In fact, the last stint I had where I exited, there was a accountant in my firm who was not even an accountant, he was a company secretary. And if you guys know what company secretaries do, it's a very mundane kind of a job, right? But here was a guy who was hungry to learn, hungry to grow, and I identified him. And I think now in a couple of years after I exit, he's going to be the CEO of the company. So in about 8 years, he just went from being a CS.
But coming back to hiring, what exactly would you ask at these dinners or in these interviews or whenever you would spend time with such a person to test their willingness to learn or to test whether they'd be a right fit?
So I'm a little old school, right? Like I still look for things like stability and hard work and whatever, but I don't think that exists. So we have to move on. But I think what you want to try and get, so here's this new thought about hiring today, right? We generally don't want to see somebody who's conventional today. I think the best gems that you find are your alternative thinkers, right? So being a fund now, that are we hiring typical MBAs, investment bankers? We're not. I would love to hire somebody who's got operational experience, comes from a very diverse field, who can bring a new perspective. So the one thing that I look for is a little bit of edginess, and it's difficult to assess that. Of course, stability, and this whole passion to sort of learn and execute. And you know your avocados, and I call them avocados because they're fresh, but they become stale very fast, so they can't catch up, right? So I think that's an interesting thing, but it's tough. Like I said, a lot of HR practices and gurus are there, but these are just some things on the ground that you learn and you pick up that you can execute.
Hi, good evening. Ayush this side. I'm building a D2C brand called 15 Buttons. So my question to you is like as a VC fund, what is the kind of ROI and the duration you guys look at while investing in a D2C startup? And just an add-on question there, what are the top three things you look at while investing in a D2C startup?
So you asked me the most mundane question. Be 100 different answers by 100 different VCs. Uh, but Ayush, really, we look at scale. We look at what problem you're trying to solve, and we look at your ability to be flexible, right? So if whatever you're doing is not working, then how do you pivot, etc. As long as we find, having traveled the journey with you, if you find that you're flexible, you're able to pivot, and you know the right timing, and we're good.
You take founders also out on dinners, like your
Sorry?
hires?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. So how many dinners can we expect?
I don't know. I'm happy to hear from the design fraternity here if they want to get tagged. So
All founders are designers in their own right.
yeah, that they are. So uh, the ROI question is a little tricky, right? Who doesn't want a great ROI?
Right.
But at the fund level, we always try to deliver upwards of 30, right? So cumulatively, as a portfolio, it has to deliver that. So individually, as a company, you can expect the best, but upwards of 30, 35.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Hi.
I have a very simple question. Today, as we stand, anyone can replicate any idea or business model with the help of the current technological tools available.
Sure.
So, considering you've made a considerable amount of evaluations and investments post 2014, 2013, when the tech era really took up in India, do you really think technological moats are still existing, or is it completely distributional in nature, where who can reach the customer before the next person?
So very, very interesting question. I think the technological moats are now beginning to reshape, right? If you ask me, uh, you can create a technology moat, but if it's a brick and mortar business, then it's distribution led. So it depends on what business, firstly, are you relying on. But if, like the sectors we are looking at, are more physical, brick and mortar in nature. Having said that, we're also looking at softwares for this space, etc. But if it's tech, I think there's a low technological moat. If it's non-tech, right, then there's a very high technological moat. So it depends on the sector that you are actually in.
And I really like your perspective on that, because that's exactly what we are seeing today in the private equity markets, where they're focusing on brick and mortar stores and centralizing them in the first place. So, do you think in India, where a blue collar economy is still as active as it was before, do you think centralizing this group of people or centralizing this group of services into one banner can really be a distributional mode by itself? Or do you think they are better off doing it individually?
So there are models that have already attempted this, trying to aggregate and consolidate and make that one distribution platform. At some level, it may work, but it doesn't work for individual brands. That's my experience, right? I think you need to do your own strategy and distribution, etc. But at some level, a little bit of consolidation may work, but not at scale.
You did mention you were old school, yeah, and
I
my
think
question.
everybody's picked up that very fast, huh? Old school.
Okay, but the reason I'm asking is that one of the typical trends of the new startups is that for a very very long period they tend to keep burning cash, yeah. And even if you take today the Swiggies of the world, yeah, there's no profitability though there's huge revenue and they keep needing more and more cash. And there is one view that, one set of investors who believe that no, cash is important or profits are important, sorry, not cash. Yeah. So where do you come? Are you okay with startups for a long period who keep getting market share but burning cash? or you do look at a short gestation period where the profits start coming into the company?
So everybody loves profits, right? So the way you evaluate this is two ways. One is you look at your unit economics, right? No VC or no investor will back you if your unit economics are not working out. Unit economics basically means that you have a healthy gross margin, right? Most of the cash is burned after that is on actually putting yourself out there, right? That's where the cash burn happens. If the cash burn is happening on actually producing that thing, you're producing for 2 rupees but you're selling for 1, there's no way anybody's going to back you, right? So we were professing this for a long time in our early days in D2C brands, but we realized that if the category will take its own course to change behavior, like look at Book My Show as my favorite example, right? Book My Show burned cash for a very long time, right? They had to promote themselves, they had to be everywhere, literally, they had to do tie-ups, associations. But today you don't blink an eyelid by paying that 30-40 rupees convenience fee, right? That's why they started making the money. And there are several such examples. So you really need to be aware of where the cash burn is happening. As a VC, things have changed in the last 10 years. People are looking at profitable models, and that's also one of the reasons we also like this category, because there's a very healthy gross margin in these brands that get created, right? So if your cash burn is happening for growth in the right areas till a specific time, and you're able to achieve your numbers in parallel to that growth trajectory, then no VC will take an objection, right? But if you're burning cash for the wrong reasons and you're not growing with the same speed that you've committed to with that cash burn, then there's an issue.
All right. But, well, thank you so much for coming here, Gopal. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Can we have a huge round of applause for Gopal?
Guys, I hope I was able to add a little value and a little perspective to what you guys are set out to do. I'm very excited about what's going to happen in India for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I think we're in the most exciting and country with massive opportunities in every space. So good luck, and hope to interact a lot more. Thank you.